Bob Brownell, Laramie, Wyoming. This is my '66 Chevy Corvair.
If you're not familiar with the Corvair, it was originally 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder flat engines that were air-cooled. Well, this one takes on a totally different approach. It's a small block Chevy powered, putting out big numbers. By putting a small block Chevy in it, you've got to actually move the engine to the middle of the car. The weight ratio of the car now becomes a mid-engine car. It handles well. It's got awesome performance because it's a light car. It was a great opportunity for Matt, our art director, to actually see an example of a performance Corvair. As a longtime Corvair enthusiast, I know he enjoyed it.
There's kind of a tendency, you know, when car guys think of Corvairs as kind of, you know, a girl's car, you know, it's kind of a, you know, sissy car. And I've got an early model one that I'm kind of customizing, but this is, you know, a whole different level. This is mean, tough. You know, I mean, Corvettes, Vipers, they got to watch out with this thing. So, you know, it's definitely a mean one. But, you know, all in all, it was a pretty good shoot. You know, it was a car that's been done for about 20 years. You know, I belong in the Minnesota Corvair Club, and, you know, he knows guys that I know, vice versa. And so it was kind of cool, small world to make that connection. But, you know, it's kind of a older vintage Corvair, and, you know, all in all, it was, you know, kind of cool to connect with it.
My mom and dad, their first brand new car was a '65 Corvair. When I got my driver's license when I turned 16 in the early '70s, it became my car. Just kind of fell in love with them, had a thing for them, a sickness, whatever you want to call it. Built up a couple Corvair-powered Corvairs, souped them up, kind of like what the kids do today with the lightweight tuner stuff. It ran pretty good. It run a 14-second quarter mile, and saw a Hot Rod Magazine article where somebody had put an old Tornado front-wheel drive in the back of one of these things, and I said, that's for me. Found this car, rescued it from the crusher in Denver in 1975, flat-towed it home. The car itself was very solid. It was dented up, beat up, but solid-wise, rust-wise, that wasn't an issue. Found a Tornado, wrecked Tornado and an engine, put that all in the back. I was 19 years old, had no idea anything about fabricating. Just did it. Went like a son of a gun in a straight line, but my suspension design was kind of suicidal. So going around a corner, it was drive at your own risk. Put nitrous on it. It run a good solid 11-second quarter on street tires. But like I say, the whole handling thing on it was kind of iffy. Got involved in stock car racing in the early '80s and went off late model stock car racing for about the next 15 years. So in the early middle '90s, we kind of hung up the stock car racing. I drugged this thing back out of the shed because it's just been sitting there gathering dust for the last 15 years. Learned a little bit more from fabricating, doing my stock car thing. Learned more about suspension, learned more about all of that stuff. Decided I wanted to do a small block transaxle conversion on this thing. Get the Oldsmobile out of there. So basically, just cut the thing up. Left the paint job on the body, but anything underneath, we just cut it out from the back of the back of the seats, all the way to the bumper. 2x3 to frame. Built my own suspension, front and rear. It's all coil over. Built my own spindles, own control arms, own suspension design. There's nothing under here that has a GM part number on it anymore. Engine's a 383/350 Chevy. Aluminum heads on it. Makes about 500 horsepower down where there's air. Up here in Laramie, there's not a lot of air, so I've lost a little power up here, but it's still fast enough. The transaxle's a Corvair Saginaw transaxle. They put them in these things from 1966 till they quit making them in '69. Been very reliable. I built the car knowing that I wasn't going to be able to wind up the clutch, wind her up $6 grand to sidestep the clutch. I knew I'd just tear things up. But once the clutch is fully let out and this thing's rolling, you just give her heck and just go like son of a gun. This is still the original paint job from 1978. It's DuPont Imron. It's held up real well. There's a few bubbles on it. I give the guy that painted it grief about that. I say, hey, the car's got another bubble on it, and you can just imagine what he tells me. I built this thing to handle. I built this thing in this configuration to go around corners. So that's the way it handles. And back in the Midwest, there was open track days, and we'd put the sticky tires up there and just go out there and raise heck. There was a couple times up at Road America where we'd go up there for weekends and actually run about 500 racetrack miles. And we'd just tear up the brakes, tear up the rotors, but just have a ball. And we'd whip up on some of the Corvettes and the Mustangs and the Vipers and stuff. Not all of them, some of them were a little faster, but I could hold my own with a lot of them. I had one guy actually come over to me with his Z06 and said, I have to see what's in this car because when my little video camera out of my Corvette shows me getting passed by a Corvair, I have to have an excuse. So that was kind of the highlight of that stuff. These things originally came with a flat, air-cooled 6-cylinder all the way in the trunk, kind of like the Volkswagen Beetle, only it had 2 more cylinders on it. It was rear-wheel drive, but the engine was behind the wheels where the trunk would be on a normal car. It was a real radical departure on GM. GM really went out on a limb to design this thing. It was something that no American car company had ever even attempted before. The V8 in the middle in the back seat here, that's just something different. It's, again, a lot of people have done it. This is just my way of doing it. You know, Ralph Nader, he killed the Corvair unsafe at any speed. I'd like him to take a ride in this thing.